afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this Roomcast webinar. My name's Steve Betterson. I'm one of the technical sales engineers at Runecast. And today we are going to be looking at troubleshooting large-scale VMware environments. So we've got 2 or 3 slides that I want to share with you just to set the scene. And then we're going to get into the main part of the webinar. We'll be looking at the demo of Runecast Analyzer. So feel free, by all means, feel free to put some questions as we go along in the Q&A box. I will try and pick those up. Normally from previous experiences, early questions get answered as the webinar goes on. But please feel free to use the Q&A and we'll get to those. I'll try and periodically stop and check. If not, we'll take those at the end. So just a few slides, as I said. This is the agenda for this afternoon. First of all, we are going to look at common problems of troubleshooting in large-scale VMware environments. Now, this is some ideas, some pointers, food for thought. It's not a definitive list. It's just to set the scene. Then, for some of you, you know, what is the Roomcast platform? How does it work? I'd imagine there are a few of you on the call that are familiar with Roomcast, maybe even using Roomcast yourselves, but there'll be those that will be new to Roomcast. So just a slide just to explain what Roomcast is and how it works. And then we're going to be getting into the demo, the real crux of the webinar. So being able to demonstrate and show you the power of Roomcast, how to find relevant fixes in large-scale VMware environments within seconds, get an overview of your environment, of any issues identified, whether that be configuration issues, best practice, perhaps security compliance issues identified, and also vulnerabilities. And we'll dig into that in quite a bit of detail. Leverage Roomcast AI-driven knowledge repository. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And again, we'll be covering all that information that we just mentioned there on VMware, security compliance frameworks, and vulnerabilities. And then towards the end, we'll show other important features that Runecast offers, such as our ESXi simulation upgrade and configuration drift. So all of that good stuff will be inside the demo. So what are some of the common problems of troubleshooting large-scale VMware environments? Well, for me, there is so much information out there from lots of different sources. So if we're talking about VMware, we've got those knowledge-based articles, we've got those best practice guidelines, HCL, hardware compatibility lists, security hardening guidelines, blogs, social media, and then things like vulnerability, CISA, that report those known exploited vulnerabilities. We'll go into that a little bit more detail later, and MITRE for those common vulnerabilities and exposures. So it's challenging to maintain your VMware environments, no matter what size there are. We also traditionally work, I believe, in a break, fix, reactive approach. So putting out fires, waiting for things to go wrong, instead of proactively, preventing these issues from occurring. And this is what Runecast is all about. And you'll see this when we go through the demo. Also, time spent searching and reading information to obtain what you're looking for when you're troubleshooting your VMware environments. But also, once you've found that information, what are you going to do with it? How do you know if you're applying it to the right places and whether you're covering all of your infrastructure? How do you truly know if your VMware environment is secure and compliant and configured optimally? Another problem might be small IT teams covering large-scale VMware environments. Simply work overload, too much for the team to manage and to be able to stay on top of. And also VMware upgrades, planning and preparing for VMware upgrades takes time and resource. We've had customers that have said that this has saved them possibly days and weeks, with Runecast Analyzer, and we'll show you that as well. Just a little message there: vSphere 6.5 and 6.7 is end of life, 15th of October, so that's only 6 weeks' time. If you're planning to do your upgrades, certainly Runecast Analyzer would be a very, very good solution to use to be able to do that. So just a reminder on that. Are you ready for October the 15th? No more VMware support for 6.5 and 6.7. And again, with Runecast, you'll be ready to plan your upgrade stress-free and with confidence. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are those of you who will be familiar with Roomcast. Those of you will be new to Roomcast Analyzer. So what is Roomcast and what does it do? So Roomcast Analyzer, in that short sentence up there, is an AI-driven platform for proactive visibility of vulnerability management, security compliance, and operational stability in on-prem and hybrid cloud environments. So you're going to hear this word a few times this afternoon, proactive. We are identifying issues within your VMware environment before they've happened. So we are analyzing and scanning your environment and checking for potential issues. So, drawing those to your attention before they've happened. So giving you time to go and do something about it. A proactive approach rather than waiting for things to go wrong and then being reactive and putting out those fires. How do we do that? Well, we have an AI engine that sits behind the scenes, and what we have is information that goes into that AI engine. So information from knowledge base articles from VMware, hardware compatibility lists, best practice guidelines, blogs, social media, security hardening guidelines. And it's not just VMware security hardening guidelines. You can see there on the slide there in the bottom left, we have various compliance frameworks that we can offer, and we can scan against your environments: GDPR, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and we're very agile, so we can adopt and improve on that and add different security compliance frameworks. Something that's missing there, CISA and MITRE, so the vulnerability management side of Roomcast, updating our platform with the new common vulnerabilities and exposures and known exploited vulnerabilities. So that all of that information gets fed into the AI engine, and we create machine-based rules. And it's these machine-based rules that are used to scan your VMware environment to detect and identify potential issues and risks. Okay, the last thing I want to mention just on this slide is that 90%, over 90% of issues are already documented, but documentation is, tends to be used reactively. So something goes wrong, we go and find a document, we find out how to fix something. With Roomcast, all of that information, 90% of these issues are inside the system, and we have adopted that proactive approach, taking away all of that kind of stress, manual reading, searching for things and then applying it to your environment. We're taking that away from you. It's no longer humanly possible to monitor known knowledge sources. Just jump to slide there. So that's the slides that I wanted to go through. We're going to now dig into the demo. I'm going to show you some of these things, taking control of you in your environment, and how to troubleshoot your VMware environment with Roomcast Analyzer. There is one last slide, and I'm going to put this up at the end. And this is, if you're interested in Roomcast, you can visit roomcast.com. You can download a trial version of Roomcast, and you can even request for a proof of concept for your environment. There's also an email address there that you can reach out to us there as well. I'll at the end of the demo, I'll bring this slide back up as well. Before I continue, I'm just going to check if we've had any questions. No, none so far. As I say, please use the Q&A if there's anything you want to ask me as we go through this, and I will be happy to answer those. Right, well, let's get out of the slides and move into the demo. Okay, let's just put this back. So for those, as again, some of you will be familiar with this this screen that's up on the main user interface, if you like, for Runecast Analyzer. For those, this is the main dashboard here, which I'm going to show you. And before I go into this, into detail and start going through the configuration analysis, just a quick pointer that Runecast Analyzer is a virtual appliance that's deployed in your VMware environment. It's an OVA deployment. It takes no longer than 20 minutes to install. By the time you've licensed and configured it and run your first analysis, you'll be getting results looking something like this. To put a bit of context into this, I am scanning against, this dashboard represents the analysis for all the systems that Runecast is able to scan and monitor. And just to drop down to show you, we have a couple of VMware environments, a couple of vSphere environments, vCenter connections there, VMware Horizon, we've got an NSXT manager connection there, and we've got Cloud Director. You can see also we can scan against the three main cloud platforms. That's AWS, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud Platform. We can also scan against Kubernetes clusters and environments. And last but not least, we can also scan against operating systems. But we're going to concentrate on VMware. This is all about troubleshooting VMware environments. So I'm going to select, I'm going to flip between both of these environments, but I'm going to start off with connecting to this vSphere, this vCenter environment 6.7, and my dashboard changes. And this is giving me all the information related to this vSphere environment, this VMware environment. So what we do is we can break down the configuration issues by severity. We can break the configurations issues by layer, so management, VM, compute, network, and storage. These widgets here represent the configuration analysis here, and we are going to go through these one by one just to show you. So KBs applicable. What this means is that 33 knowledge base articles have been identified in this VMware environment that I need to take a look at. So I meet the criteria. So potential issues that could happen but haven't happened yet. So this is the proactive approach. Combined with that, we've got the best practice adoption here. So this is indicating to me that I'm following VMware's best practice guidelines around 68%. We're then going to look at vulnerabilities, and it's telling me here I have 49 vulnerabilities within this VMware environment. And we're going to look at security compliance. And I've selected every single compliance framework. As a default, you'd be looking at having VMware security hardening guidelines as a standard. And then depending on what your organization or company security compliance guidelines are, you may follow GDPR, you may follow CIS, or a number of these compliance frameworks. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. We're going to go through the hardware compatibility, and I'm going to show you how we can do upgrades of ESXi hosts using the simulation tool. Custom profiles we'll look at, and we'll get into the log analysis as well. You can see here as well, we can see over a period of time, the issue history. We can see that over days and weeks. We can have a look at the hosts with the most issues. But here's something I really want to draw your attention to, and the power of Roomcast. This VMware environment on a daily basis has a total of over 50,000 checks performed against it across all of these different objects in this VMware environment. So virtual machines here, we've got networks, hosts, data stores, no clusters there, but we've got port groups and switches. So over 50,000 checks every day performed on this VMware environment, comprising of knowledge-based checks, security compliance checks, and best practice checks. You can see here when I made that statement, it's humanly impossible to analyze your environment on a daily basis at this kind of level. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at these KBs that we've identified here in our environment. So again, this is we've made this really simple. Single click into this, and we can see all of those knowledge base articles that are applicable. And we've broken those down into obviously the severity, critical, major, medium, and low. I've various filtering tools up here that I can use to filter out against the products, against what it's affecting, the layers. So if I wanted to just look at compute management, I could do that, and you can see there it changes. I can also search on keywords. So I might want to search on patch, for example, or I might want to search on purple screen of death, and we've got a few there, and we'll dig into those in a minute. So very, very powerful. You can drill down into the areas that you want to look at, different products, what it's affecting, and the layers. And then over the right hand side here, you can see that we can see the number of objects that each of these knowledge base articles are applicable to. So the way it works in Roomcast, to get our overall status of passed, every single object has to pass. And this percentage bar then shows you where you are, with that. So we're going to just pick on one. I'm going to take this first one, is purple screen of death. So again, just as a reminder, this is something that could happen in my environment. It hasn't happened yet. Runecast Runecast Analyzer has identified this as a potential issue. I need to go and do something about it. Single click, I have all the information I need. We're putting the resolution where we can at the top of the page. And this is telling me that I need to upgrade, and these are the versions. We're even providing the link to the download page there. We can see that this issue is affecting 6 objects here. I can see what those are by going into the analysis findings. So it's related to data stores and a couple of hosts there. I've got the symptoms, purpose here to avoid PSOD. Nobody wants PSOD, loss of service, loss of virtual machines, loss of applications, and worst case, loss of revenue and through downtime. So all the information I need at my fingertips. I've also got some details over here about the severity, but if I want to go and see the original source of information, I've got the links there to do that as well. So the object of the game is to get this, your config KBs discovered down to 0 effectively. So what does this help by having these KBs remediated? Well, better operational efficiency and reduction of downtime. This is saving SysAdmins, IT engineers a lot of time and resource and cost. We're providing all of that information. We're also providing where this is applicable to your VMware environment, and we're also providing, quick and easy steps to getting the resolution and remediation steps for the sysadmins to go and do that. So we're taking away all of that, react to something that goes wrong, Googling, finding out the knowledge base article, reading through it. We've taken away all of that. You can instantly identify, by automating this for you, identifying where that knowledge base article needs to be looked at and the objects it's affecting. Just check if there's any questions. Not at the moment. Right, let's have a look at best practice. Again, VMware releasing best practice guidelines. And again, we are able to, with Runecast, scan the system to see how your environment is following best practice adoption via VMware. So here I've got a couple of criticals here, a few major ones as well. Same principle, you can see the objects, what it's passing and failing, the products here, the effects and the layer. We've got filtering tools again. You can see here as well that we've got some of these that have got this particular symbol here. This means that we have remediation scripts for you. So not only are we identifying a best practice, showing you where perhaps you need to follow best practice on a particular item, for this, for example, disable SSH unless needed for diagnostics or troubleshooting. We're even providing you, in this instance, a remediation script to go and deal with that. So again, let's click into here. We have the issue description. it's affecting 2 of my ESXi hosts, and I've got a remediation script here. So imagine I've got 50 or 60 hosts here, and maybe 2 or 3 or half a dozen of these maybe not they may be pre-production, and I don't want to have this enabled on here. I can filter those out, so I can run the script just on this particular host. So it's going to stop the SSH service, and it's going to change the SSH service policy as well on that host. I can generate the script here, single click, and it's going to offer me a Power CLI script or an Ansible playbook script. I can then download that script. If I've got change control processes within my organization, I can assign that script to the ticket, and I can run that script then to effectively get those 2 objects turning green and to increase my best practice adoption. So again, the name of the game is to get your overall best practice adoption as high as possible. Why? Well, this again leads to better operational efficiency, potential less downtime. You're also preventing potential issues and maybe reducing attack vectors, certainly with disabling that SSH. And also, in other benefits, providing those remediation scripts to help fix and remediate those potential issues there. I'm going to move on to vulnerabilities. So very much IT operations management tasks that we've looked at there, looking at config KBs, best practice adoption, and being able to troubleshoot our VMware environment. Now we're going to look at the security and compliance side and vulnerabilities management and identification as well. So again, vulnerabilities, single click on here, and this is going to, as we saw earlier, we've got 77 issues here on vulnerabilities in this VMware environment. And it's important to know that with known exploited vulnerabilities, these are coming out all the time, and CISA, releasing these, daily, weekly. So we get those into our system usually within 24 hours. Certainly if it's a known exploited critical, it will be in the system. So we're constantly updating Runecast Analyzer. So if you're using Runecast Analyzer, you can always stay on top of vulnerabilities and manage those across your system. Also, your systems are changing all the time. The landscape's changing. You're adding new virtual machines. You're adding new hardware all the time. This is a way to stay on top of it. So the first thing I would look to do here, again, we've got the filtering tools as normal here. I can quickly go and have a look and just see if I've got any known exploited vulnerabilities. These are ones that I would be very keen to look at as a first instance, because other organizations have fallen foul to these particular vulnerabilities. They've been reported to CISA. So I've got a list here. I'm actually passing on a couple down there, which is great. I'm just going to pick on, let's pick on this OpenSLP remote code execution vulnerability. Single click in here, tells me it's a known exploited, and it actually is impacting more than one VMware product. So it's across all of these different products here. And it's giving me various matrix depending on what has been discovered here. I happen to know that this is impacting 2 of my ESXi hosts here. So I will be going back to the matrix for that. You can see here, this is a response matrix. Depending on version I've got of my ESXi host, this is giving me the fixed version. It's also giving me some information about a workaround if I can't apply the fixed version straight away. You can see here, it's got a CVS score of 9.8, which is pretty high. So, I'd want to be looking at getting this resolved pretty quickly. Draw your attention to the right-hand side here. Again, details of the severity here, what profile it's come from. So this is vulnerabilities. There's the common vulnerability and exposures reference code there. There's a CISA KEV due date. This relates to US government and military organizations. This is a recommended due date that this particular vulnerability should be remediated and that attack vector closed off. So that's what that means. And again, we're trying to get an overall, we're trying to, deal with these known exploiters, get these critical vulnerabilities remediated, but also, we'd be concerned at, looking at just critical and major vulnerabilities as well. You can see we've got the bar across telling us the status. We can also export this out for reporting. So this is a good way of tracking vulnerability management. As I said, vulnerabilities coming out all the time. New ones are being added to our definition database. So this is a very good place to come and check. To give you an example, with the Log4j, the remote code execution, that vulnerability that came out, our customers were able to, that were using Roomcast, we were able to get that into Roomcast within 24 hours. So our customers were able to get on top of that problem very, very quickly. And also to be able to identify which parts of the VMware environment were affected. So vulnerabilities, identifying threats and potential security breaches very, very quickly. How long would it take manually to check 500 servers for vulnerabilities? I'll just leave that question open there. The ability to check known exploited vulnerabilities and remediate, and to be able to stay on top in a very much a proactive approach for vulnerability management. Just going to check for any questions. I don't see any at the moment. Again, please, if there are anything that I've said, anything that you've seen, please drop the questions in the Q&A. Okay, I'm going to go on to security compliance. Kind of showed you a bit about the list here. So these are all the compliance frameworks that we are able to offer. For VMware customers, having VMware security hardening guidelines would be a default. We've got customers would then use perhaps CIS or one or two others particular, frameworks that they need to follow within their organization. Again, I'm just going to highlight on the VMware guidelines. I don't seem to have any critical ones here, but you can see it's the same principle here. We can go in single click, we get the issue description, we can see the analysis findings here. Again, that's those two hosts. And again, I have a remediation script, and I can come in here and generate the script for this particular compliance. And again, the idea is to get our compliance levels up as high as possible. Also, if we've got auditors coming in and we need to be audit ready, Runecast Analyzer really does provide that capability. We're able to export out. So once we've started getting this looking a lot more compliant, we're able to then export that out into a report, either CSV or a PDF report. We can make that high level, which will include the objects and findings, so really getting into a granular level, or we can close that off and just have a high level report. So if you've got auditors coming in, again, we've got customers that find this very useful, audited once a year. They need to prove that they're GDPR compliant or ISO 27001, whatever compliance framework they need to be compliant on. They can prepare in good time. They can make sure that their environment is up to the necessary compliance levels, and then they can export that out for the auditors. So really the highlight there is staying compliant and also being audit ready and being able to report out on that. I'm going to skip configuration vault and go into the hardware compatibility and come back to that. So I brought up that slide earlier on about, are you ready for October the 15th, where 6.5 and 6.7 is end of life. So many of you might be starting to plan your VMware upgrades. If you're on 6.5, 6.7, you need to get up to 7. Runecast Analyzer has a really neat functionality behind it. So we talked about analyzing and scanning your environment for configuration mismatch in the config KBs, best practice and vulnerabilities, then compliance. We're also checking your VMware ESXi hosts on a hardware compatibility level. So every time you analyze, and most customers will run their analysis once a day, usually in the early hours in the morning, but you can run the analysis anytime. It's constantly checking against the HCL, against your hardware, and checking that you've got the most up-to-date drivers and that your hardware is compliant. So you can see here I've got 3 servers that are currently on ESXi 6.5, and I want to upgrade to 7. How do I know if I can successfully upgrade? Well, with the ESXi Roomcast simulation upgrade tool, we can do that. So just looking at these, I can click on one of these. It's showing me saying the configuration is compatible here, and also all of my IO devices are looking healthy. But I want to upgrade these 3 machines to the latest version, 7 update 3. Now, just imagine I've got a small environment here, large scale VMware environments. Maybe I've got 500 machines here that I need to upgrade. I can run this simulation, click here, and immediately I get some results. So this particular host here, I know I could confidently go and upgrade because it's coming back saying that my hardware's fine, no issues with the IO devices. But these 2 here, I might want to take a look at. The hardware looks fine, but I've got some issues with my RAID controller here. And what it's telling me here is this particular driver on my RAID controller, this firmware version, is not found in the HCL hardware compatibility list. Not to worry, I've been offered an alternative driver here with a minimum firmware version that is required to go to 7.03. So again, go back, imagine I've got 500 servers. This is reporting quite a lot of mismatches across those. I can export that information out to a report for my IT teams. I might need to split that workload into for different groups of people. But this is a really powerful tool for planning your VMware upgrades. We've had customers that have just bought Roomcast Analyzer just for this functionality alone. They've had big upgrades programs to go through. They bought Roomcast purely for this functionality alone. Really powerful. Some of the feedback we've had, saving days and weeks of time preparing and getting ready just to execute the upgrade. With Runecast Analyzer, you can get the results back very, very quickly. You can prepare your upgrades and be ready. Right, let's jump back to the configuration vault, check for any questions. No, we haven't got any at the moment. Configuration vault. This is really, really powerful for being able to see what is going on in your environment, see what you've inventory-wise, being able to do baseline comparisons, historical changes. So I can filter. At the moment, we're just looking at hosts, 3 hosts here, but I could perhaps look at my virtual machines, see what's going on. Most of them are powered off, some powered on here. I can look at port groups. I can look at anything in the environment that's listed here. I'm going to stick with the hosts, and perhaps I've got a gold image and I want to check a baseline comparison with my gold image. So I can select baseline comparison here. Maybe I'm going to choose this host, and I can click on those 2 blue arrows, and what it's going to do is tell me what the changes are between this host and the other 2 hosts, and it gives me a list of changes here, and I can click in here and have a look. There are obvious things like IP addresses, but you've got things like NIC counts, IO device counts, different there. So it's a good way of SSH service policy is off on one and on another. So you can compare perhaps to a gold image that you have, and you want to compare other hosts in your environment. Again, you can do that with virtual machines as well. And again, you can get a status here of what's going on. I can also do historical changes. Let's have a look at virtual machines as an example. and go to historical changes. What this allows me to do is to compare between two timestamps. So I might leave this one on the latest analysis that was run today, and I might search back to perhaps July the 26th. I can then click apply. And again, it's going to give me some information here, high level. There's 8 changes to the VMs, sorry, 8 unchanged, 7 that have changed, 1 new virtual machine's been added, and 1's been removed. So it's a really good way of seeing how your environment's changed over time or between 2 time frames. A lot of customers have come back and said this is very, very useful. Custom profiles, these are particularly useful as well, where you can cherry pick. So for example, if you've got all these compliance frameworks and you want to create a very niche compliance framework, you can do that. And you can cherry pick from the different, so you could pick something from ISO 27001, GDPR. You could also pick from best practice guidelines, KBs, and also vulnerabilities. So you can create your own custom profiles. That's what those are there for. Now, I want to go back to the log analysis and have a look at this. And I'm going to flip over to my vCenter 7 environment, and we're going to go back to the dashboard. So before we were talking about with KBs, compliance and vulnerabilities, these are things that are waiting to happen. This is the proactive approach of Roomcast, identifying things in the environment that could happen but haven't happened yet. What this means here with log issues and incompatibility is that these are issues that have happened. These have actually happened in this particular environment, this VMware environment. So if I click on here, what this is doing is discovering things in the log files that have actually happened. Okay, so I've got one here, lost connectivity. So I can select here, I can click on these 4 arrows, and it will give me details about this lost network connectivity. It's referring a resolution here, and it's advising me to go to resolve the issue, ensure that the drivers and firmware are compatible. So this would be a start of where I would need to start looking at this particular problem. But not only that, where's this happening? So I can click on the findings, and this is giving me the server, the objects. So this is one of my hosts in this environment, and the timestamps within the syslog message. So combined with the detail in here, the findings in this log file, in the findings here, I can go away and start troubleshooting that problem. Also with the log inspector, this is a really cool functionality or tool, as I like to call it. So we don't grab every single log from the hosts. What we do is we look and scan for information with keywords in it. So interesting bits of information and patterns of data within the log file. So we are looking at keywords like failed to, unable to, could not to, SCSI commands and errors. And we can search for strings. We can put things in here, or perhaps I can search on the host and have a look to see, pick one that's got quite a few things going on in it. I can then filter on the program that are running there. There seems to be a lot with the vSAN system here. And suddenly I can start digging in and having a look at some of the timestamps here. And this is useful information to start going away and troubleshooting. It's also information that if you had to raise a call or a ticket with VMware support, this is the kind of information that you could put inside that ticket. So very, very powerful. So in summary, what does Roomcast offer sysadmins and IT operations teams who manage and troubleshoot these large-scale VMware environments? Well, here are a few reminders. It's a proactive approach to troubleshooting large-scale environments. We can identify issues, vulnerabilities, and potential security breaches before they've happened across your entire VMware estate. We're providing clear remediation and resolution steps, including scripts where we can. And I think there are over 600 scripts now within Runecast Analyzer, to help you fix these issues. So the information is at your fingertips. I'm hoping I've shown that and demonstrated that in the demo. We're combining IT operations with security compliance, including also vulnerability management, which we covered, in one single platform solution. Continuous analysis of the VMware environment, ensuring that when systems change, when new vulnerabilities come out, when compliance rules change, when best practice documentation comes out, when new knowledge base articles come out, you're going to be ready with Runecast Analyzer, because the system is updated on a regular basis once a week, and with the vulnerabilities, if it's known exploiters, those are done every 24 hours. So you're constantly staying on top of your VMware environment and able to sort of detect vulnerabilities and misconfiguration. What's the benefits of all of this that we've gone through this afternoon? Greater operational efficiency in your VMware environment, with less chance of downtime and lost revenue. Lots of our customers have fed this back to us, that using Runecast Analyzer, their downtime, they've been able to spot purple screen of deaths before they've happened. And had one customer that has identified had a problem with purple screen of death, started using Runecast Analyzer, was able to clear all of that up, much more stable environment. Reducing attack vectors and potential security breaches, which nobody wants. The proactive approach of Runecast Analyzer, saving sysadmins, IT ops teams, by using Runecast, being proactive, saving you time, not having to go research, spend time reading documentation. When things have gone wrong, we're being proactive. Prevention is better than cure. It's 24/7 analysis, means that troubleshooting your large scale VMware environments is made far simpler with Runecast. Just to give you some quotes from some of our customers that we've had, to really strengthen and echo what I've demonstrated and discussed this afternoon. One of our customers described Runecast as like having a VMware support engineer 24/7 on steroids. We've also had comments like, thanks to Runecast Analyzer, I'm saving 2 to 3 hours a day. I would highly recommend this solution as a must-have for any VMware vSphere environment. Runecast Analyzer gives me peace of mind, knowing that the servers are better optimized, configured, patched, and secured, which mitigates downtime and saves a lot of man hours. And finally, Runecast saves us from issues before they happen, the value of which cannot be overstated. In addition, Runecast real-time data saves us weeks and months that we previously spent on dealing with VMware support. I hope that's been useful. I've just noticed there is a question that's come into it. How is it licensed? Yeah, we get asked this all the time. So it's licensed by CPU, physical CPUs. So for an example, if you had 6 hosts that were dual socket, that would be 12 CPU licenses that you would require. In terms of cost and how much these licenses cost, depends on the size. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more information, we can certainly provide that for you. I'm going to just bring up that slide again. Look here. So as a reminder, if you're interested in finding out more about Runecast, would like a demo, would like to download, would like to do a POC, please reach out to us. Is there support for Linux? From an OS side, yes. I mentioned in the context that we are able to scan for operating systems, both Windows and Linux. We haven't covered that in this. We've been concentrating on VMware environments. But yes, we can go to the operating system level and scan for vulnerabilities and compliance with Linux OS. At the moment, it's Rails 7 and 8. There is on the roadmap possibly other flavors of Linux as well, but that will be down the line. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope that has been useful. Please reach out to us if you need anything, and I shall give you back 13 minutes of your afternoon. Thank you very much for listening.